Welcome, everybody, to another episode here at Finish Line. We have such an amazing guest, and I am super, super excited. I'm going to let Jay take this one. Jay, go ahead and introduce our amazing guest.
Thank you. So our guest is a guy who's known in the community. He's known for uh, networking mindset. He's known for working with businesses, and he runs the group Network to Net Worth. And so I'm going to introduce my guy, Shane Evans.
Amazing. Guys, Shane Evans is definitely someone you guys want to know and want to connect with. He has his follow-up game down packed, and he's doing very, very big things. So definitely make sure that you guys connect with him after watching this video and let him know that you guys saw him here too. It's always nice when our guests are getting messages saying, "Hey, I saw you guys on the podcast," and thank them too for taking their time out of their day to spend time with us and bring you guys value.
Absolutely. All right, let's bring Shane on. All right, Shane, welcome. Do me a favor. Let's talk about you and tell everybody who you are and a little bit about yourself so we can get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I live in Vermont. I'm a real estate and business investor. My partner and I, Marley Tarbo, we've been working together for quite a while and working on buying businesses and large multifamilies. And I've been working in multiple different communities, building my brand essentially, and connecting with a lot of people. And what I focus on mainly is bringing people together. So networking is a big piece of my job essentially. And I have a community called Network to Net Worth that we bring people together and do deals and work on a bunch of things. And basically my background is in education. So I used to be a teacher for about 13 years. I taught everything from digital media through video all the way out to automotive, wood shop, and engineering and HVAC, electrical, plumbing, welding, all those types of things. So I've got a pretty broad background in a lot of things, which lends well to business buying as well as multifamily in that world. So my wife and I, we live in Vermont. We grew up in New Jersey, both of us. We have a 2-year-old, 2.5-year-old by now. And we are just working on building our I guess, empire, you can call it, or just our business in general to really do some good in the world.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think I've been in Network for Net Worth for over almost a year now. Whenever you started, I think I pretty much joined. So I think that's how you and I originally met. I was on a couple of your lives and just talking on the side. So, and now you're a client, so that's even better. It always works out great,
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So you brought up networking. Like I said on one of our last interviews, we talked about networking and intentionally networking and making sure you're doing things for a reason, right? Because a lot of times we go to these meetups or we go to these events, pay all this money to get in a room and just say, hey, this is what I do and who I am. And there's no intentional networking. So how do you tie that into, what you're trying to build on from your side, right? From the network to net worth.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things I look at is how can I bring as much value to other people, right? So how can I serve them? And in that, I don't mean just serve them without any plans to do deals with them. Like I want to serve them so that they have the ability to move forward in their business, but I also want them to know I want to do deals with you. Like how do you, like, I actually put the ball in everyone else's court. Like, how do you see us doing business together? Because everyone needs something. And I know that with my network, I pretty much got every resource I need. I just need to know what that other person needs and fill in the gap. Right. So whenever I network with people, we can go, like you said, you can go into a meeting, even this today, right? There's a purpose for why I'm here, because I'm getting in front of people and like getting my face out there, and people know you, and now they know me, and it's just super intentionality about it. And some people, if you're not in that game, you look at it as like, oh, that's selfish. Well, yeah, we're in business. We all want to be selfish. We're allowed to be selfish because that's how you do sales. That's how you do marketing. That's how you get things out there. So whenever I network with people, I make sure that they know that the goal is to do something. And I know some people have put posts out like, hey, I just want to get to know you. And I did that. I put out a post like, I want to be able to give you value. And here's the 3 things that I want to do. I want to foster relationships. I want to be a friend. I want to do deals. But that's not enough information, right? You got to be super intentional about what you want and what you need.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that we all started that way and we all learned how to morph that, right? Because I'm with you. Like I give away a ton of free stuff. Jennifer gives a ton away of free knowledge. We help as many people as we can, but there has to be a reason, right? Because at a certain point, when you give away everything, it's building that credibility stack too, right? That maybe I'm not going to do any business with you, but somebody who's watching what I'm talking about and learning from what I'm talking about is going to reach out to me because they need me to take care of some business for them. And so I see the both sides where it's like, I might not be able to do business with Shane, but one of Shane's followers that heard something I said is going to need me to take care of something, right? So I love that, man.
Right. It's
So I
just like
know,
it's like pouring into each other, right? You want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that want to help each other out. It's not just a one-way road, right? So we do this all the time where I think sometimes people forget how valuable networking is. Like sometimes, you come across people and they're like, well, I've spoken to 100 different people, but I don't know what to do. Right. And that in itself is valuable. Being able to connect with each other and put people in the right rooms with other people is something that's it's worth like millions of dollars, right?
And I think, we can say that at a high level that it's worth something, but unless you know the actionable items to do the job to get those people together to like make a deal and put and wedge yourself into it, or like be like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm the hub of this wheel. Let's do deals together. But unless your brain works at that high level, or you learn until you learn that, those hundreds of people are hundreds of people, right? They're just
Yep.
connections that are in a Rolodex that I'm probably not going to remember to follow up on until I think I need something. And 8 months later, they're like, who the hell are you? Like, well, why are we talking again? Like we
Mhm.
haven't cultivated a relationship and you want to do what? I'm already over here on my business and you're still back there. Like what's going on? Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
How do
And I think
you
that's again,
go
sorry, how
ahead,
does
Jay?
it, this, that's, it's almost like that speed dating thing that I see a lot of people do. Like, hey, what do you do? Okay, what do you got? Okay, cool. All right, I'll give it to you next week. And then next week never happens. That's something you just say because you never follow up, you never document it. And what I like about what you just said was you have to cultivate a relationship because you can talk to somebody all day long, but if you haven't understood who they were, what they actually believe, that core value type thing, I don't necessarily want to do business with somebody who just tells me they can do something good. Like, how do I know you're going to stand behind what you say and you can do what you say? So that's a good point. Like making sure that you're cultivating a relationship and you're being intentional when you do that.
How do you like maintain those relationships? Because I always hear people saying, yeah, I can talk to people, but it's a struggle with that follow-up game. So what do you do to build those relationships?
So and it is a struggle, right? It's a struggle for all of us unless you're purposely putting them in a CRM or whatever. But I know some people who are just phenomenal at the follow up. So a lot of times what I will do is I'll make sure within 24 hours to 48 hours I send another message to that person to keep that relationship going. At least to say, hey, this was an important combo. And like the people that I don't think it was as important, or we didn't really go as far in the like last night I had a meetup, and there were some people that are doing great things and they want to do great things, but other people may or may not. Like they'll be on my like every 4 week kind of follow up maybe. But even so, even the like Jay, you're really good at this. Like you've been touching base with us for the past 2 months. We've been working on this one deal, and you're like, "Hey, how's it going, guys?" Like, but you're not bombarding me either. You're like, "Hey, we're here when you need me." Right? I know what you have, and you know what we need, and there's a value resource for what we're doing together. So yeah, the follow up is really important, and there's a book called Blue Fishing. Has either of you guys read this?
I have not.
So it's called Blue Fishing, and the concept is there's a guy, and if you listen to it, it's an Australian, so he's like it's great to listen to. It's a lot of fun. But um, he talks about how to keep in touch with his clients, and what he'll do is he'll be at a hotel and he'll see a news article about golf, and he'll tear the thing out of the page in the magazine. He'll write a Sharpie note on it for John. Say, hey, saw this. I'm over in Costa Rica. I was thinking about you. Let's catch up soon. And then he'll mail it in the mail
Hmm.
to that person's house. And now that gives that person the like, whoa, Shane was thinking about me when he was on his trip over here. Man, that's awesome, right? And and they know what I like, and they know what I care about. And that value piece that you talked about, Jay, is super important, especially partnerships and things. I'm sure the two of you have that in common, or else you wouldn't be working together. And I preach that in what I like when I started with my partner. And I mean, all of us, right? Our partners, our significant other. That's another version of that too. But when you're doing business, if I don't want you in my backyard having a barbecue, I don't want to do business with you. Like I did stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. That's how my husband is. Like when I'm not sure if you met Irving at the meetup, but when he meets people, there's an echo coming through, Jay. When he meets people, he knows where they went to school, how many kids they have, what their spouse does. Like he knows everything about them.
That's
I'm
amazing.
like, oh my God, like you gather so much information. And I'm like, I feel like that's something that I need to get better at, right? Is getting to know them as a person, right? And that's something that I'm still learning. And it's something that I teach my team too. When they're networking with other people, find something that you can connect with on a human level, because you can't make this be a transactional thing, right? It's not like, hey, I have a service, I want to sell it to you. That doesn't work. But how can we connect on a human level and get to know each other? Because people will work with people that they like. So getting to know them and have like, oh, we like the same books, or, you know, I went to that same vacation spot with my family is really cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, it's really interesting. And so something that I used to look at as a negative thing, like out of necessity, I became what I call a chameleon, trying to fit into every group. Right, as a kid, you know, my upbringing and always trying to fix problems to make sure that the household was fine and like things like that. And I grew into that role, and everyone knew me. Everyone knew me in high school. I played football. I didn't even know what I was doing. I literally snapped the football and I hit the person in front of me. I would ask the guy next to me, like, what am I supposed to do here? And like, that's how much I didn't know, but everyone knew who I was and all the different like levels, and same thing with college and things like that, because I connect with everyone in a certain way. I don't remember, but I don't remember everyone either. Right. So that's the problem. Like your husband who can do that, like that's a skill. And that's something that we all need to learn how to do. But a lot of people, there's some people like your husband that can memorize all those details, and it'll never leave the vault, and that's
Mhm.
amazing to me. And that kind of a person is like the connector, you know, type person or networker. And I love meeting those people, because you're like, how did you remember that? It's just the coolest
Oh
thing.
yeah.
But that connection on the one-on-one, to be able to say like, oh yeah, I understand that, and then have some story of your own to show that this is a connection, like, oh, I've gone through something similar. And recently there's a book I read also, and I'm going to just keep bringing up random learning things this whole episode, but it's called Surrounded by Idiots. If you haven't read that one, it's a really great one, especially for negotiating and just doing business. It talks about 4 different personality types and how you have to actually step into the role of those different personality types in order to communicate with someone. So like a controller, if I'm having a party, I'm going to say to that person like, hey, John, you need to get your butt over here at 5 p.m. because we're having a party and I need you to bring a salad and, you know, wings. And you're going to be here. You're going to help me set up, and then you're going to help me break it all down. Okay. And then someone who's an analyzer, you're going to go ahead and say, hey, you know, we're going to have this party. It's starting at 6:45. You should show up at 6:30 because I want you to come in, get, you know, settle in. And then we're going to go through. I want you to bring a salad with some lettuce and tomato and cucumbers and, you know, and all these different pieces. And then at 8 o'clock, I know you've got kids. You can go home and take care of that. And then you've got the promoter, where you're going to be all excited to bring them in, and you're going to match and mirror that. And that's the thing I've done my whole life, mirroring other people. And then the last role is like a supporter. Supporter is going to be like, hey, we love being around. I really want you to be here because I like all of us want you to feel welcome and loved and da 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 da. But if you can do that, you'd be amazed with how many people you can communicate and do different things with, and not even just in business, but in life in general. It's pretty astounding.
I definitely got to read that book. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, right? Because, you know, you just, sometimes you feel like you're going through emotions in life, right? And you don't realize that we have to work on ourselves to be able to work with other people, right? And everyone thinks, well, I mean, I'm a good communicator. And you don't realize like it's a lot of work to work on your communication skills, right? And I think about that every day with myself. I'm like, I do not communicate nearly as good as I do now, as I like, well, the other way. I'm so good at communicating now versus me like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, right? Or how I deal with other people and being understanding of, why they're going through things and how we can do better and all of these things. And it's just that self-development that you do as time goes on, and just being around other people. And like, I'm learning a whole bunch from you in this podcast. So I really hope that our audience is soaking this up right now, because this is valuable, right? This is like, right now you taught me about, mirroring other people. That's gold. I'm gonna take that one down for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, the self-help thing, right? Having to work on yourself. I mean, there's been, I mean, the amount of audiobooks and books I've read in the past year is just mind-blowing. And the things that I learned, the ones I've reread and I've read again and again and again, because I'm like, oh yeah, there's so much more depth to this. I go to therapy once a week. I've been doing it for years since I moved up here to Vermont. I've been tried to do it in Jersey, but it didn't really work out. My wife and I go to the same person. So whenever we have to have like a group session to like get it in alignment, we just use one of our sessions once a week to be like, all right, we'll just do a double session together, or we'll do a single one back to back. So it's really cool to see like, oh wow, all the stuff I went through as a kid, all those things that are roadblocks right now, they're also superpowers, right? Because my superpower of being a chameleon is the reason why everyone wants to connect with me, and I'm able to put myself out there and be vulnerable, right? And that's a huge one. Like being vulnerable, never mind in a session with a one-on-one with a trained person, but to be vulnerable in a room right here, me sharing that I go to therapy on a weekly basis. Not many people are going to do that, right? They're not going to share that, right? Like I saw Jay's eyes go, oh geez, like, and
I mean, not many share it. Not that there's a problem with it, but not many will talk about it. Especially guys. Like we don't talk about it. Guys don't talk about that stuff, and I think you should. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I think 100% we should talk about it.
Yeah, well, and it's not I'm telling you my deep dark secrets. I'm telling you that I'm putting in the self work. Like I don't go there to just bitch and complain about my childhood. I go there to say, why am I having this feeling? What's this feeling in my body? Because that feeling is attached to an emotion, which is attached to an event that happened in my past. And if I can look at that event from when I was 4 years old and give that little kid a hug and tell that little kid, it's okay. Like you don't deserve to be in this spot, but you had to protect yourself. And then go to my little version of me now and say, cool, thank you for being here for all these years and protecting me to get me where I am now. But I'm the adult, and I can move into the next stage. And you're not needed right now. And it sounds ridiculous when I say it like that, but if you actually have that conversation with yourself, it puts so much aside where you can just get through the garbage, and now you can act on actual facts instead of the emotions that are coming up, right? And there's so many things I can talk about on that sense, on body emotions and how you react to anxiety and excitement. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
It's funny you say that, because like growing up, I was always taught, like my family was always very private. Like you couldn't really show too much emotion, because it's like, hey, they're like this, right? And so that's how I grew up. And people would be like, oh my God, you're so like cold, or like no one, like it was always this wall, like no one really knew me. So like I worked my way up into management, and people wouldn't see me as like a person, like as a human. They wouldn't see me as like relatable. Like, no way you like that type of music. No way you do this stuff. Yes, I do. Guys, I'm human too. Like, and it was so hard for them to see like past that wall. So now I'm like, okay, it's okay for me to bring that wall down and just be human. Like, just because I'm in this role doesn't mean I'm like a superior or like this robot, right? I'm still human. So I've been working on that and just learning how to be relatable so that people see me for me, a person, not for what I do.
And not a person, but the person. You're the only version of you.
Right. Man, I love this topic.
Like Shane, like we were talking about too, like the thing is, everybody here is like, go read business books, go read this book, learn how to do this, but they don't go back to exactly what you said. Those people who wrote those books, they've went deeper than those books are ever going to talk about. Because you're not writing, I've got one over here, Buy Back Your Time, right? You're not writing that type of book unless you've went deeper into your psyche, right? Essentially, and learned what caused you to want to not do that, and then what opens you up to learn how to do that. And so, I'm still getting there. I haven't went that deep yet, but I like that because um, I think that it helps you learn. I think that it helps you learn how to conduct as a human. So I think we've had so much garbage in our lives, pumped into our lives, and things like that, that it messes us up in general. And that's not bad, right? Not necessarily negative things, but the surrounding areas you were around change the way you think, regardless if you believe it or not, right? It does. So that's good. So on pivot a little bit on your business buying side, what type of business are you going after right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have lenders who will support tech companies, SaaS, AI, as well as oh geez, there's so many different things. We're also looking for home services, construction, anything that's kind of funnel into what we're working on in terms of the large multifamilies and things. So we really have a pretty large buy box as long as it's got a good enough cash flow, right? So anything that's under 10 million, we're looking at, it needs to be some type of creative deal. Anything over 10 million, we have funders to bring it down. But we're looking for some really unique deals. So if anyone has any that they've got going on that are really has like an EBITDA of $1 million or more, so cash flow of $1 million or more, we would love to talk about it and see what options there are. But SaaS is a pretty high one on our list, and tech. But we also have things like sports and gaming is what our lenders like. It's kind of an interesting world when you get into a spot where your buy box is based on your lender versus what I want to do. Right now it's about cash flow, right? It's not really about, to us, it's not about what is my pet project. It's about how can I get the most for now and build that company up to a point where we can now go ahead and spend the discretionary money to do the pet projects.
So you guys aren't operating it, right?
We have a team that does operations. Yeah. So they'll do high end operations, and they'll do that. But yeah, we are not stepping into that business in any way.
I was going to say, that's interesting, getting in the business side. And I agree with you, building it to where you can leverage it into what you like to do, your pet projects, whatever. That's awesome. It's funny because like I've actually got 3 LOIs out right now on SaaS companies. They don't make $1 million. They're not $1 million at EBITDA yet, but they're smaller and local to me. And so one's a digital marketing agency, one is like an accounting software, and I forgot what the third one is. But they don't have, I mean, their EBITDA is like $400K total or each. And so small, but big enough, right? The owners are just tired. They're just tired. The problem is I don't know if you're running into this when it comes to SaaS. This one company I've got, they've lost money the last 2 years, but they still want $500,000. I'm like, wait a minute. They're like, well, we revenued $200,000 last year. I was like, but you profited negative $30,000. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm trying to work on a profit share thing. And it's really because the guy just fell out of love with doing it. So he's been just going through the motions. So I'm like, well, if you're not caring, why try to sell it at that high? Let's talk about a profit share, and I'll just pay you per month of the profit when we get to the profit stage, because I think that it can be grown. And it's a marketing agency.
That's great.
Can you guys explain what SaaS is? I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Do you want to go? You can do it.
Open Dispo is a SaaS company. Right. So Rick Sheldon owns a SaaS
software as a service.
So, SaaS is just a software. Yeah, software as a service is what it stands for. So anything that's offered. So Xero is a SaaS. QuickBooks is now a SaaS technically, because they offer the system as a service, and you go in there and work. And so digital marketing agencies are being considered SaaSes, even though we can talk about that. But I mean, it's the same model, right? At the end of the day, it's a model. And it really started back from like the tech days of having people host your data center and things like that. So it was, hardware as a service, right? And things like that. So, and it's a great thing to be into because there's low overhead. Outside of salaries, there's really not a lot of overhead in a SaaS company.
Yeah, you're renting server space, if that, right? Or you're having your own server if it's not that big yet, right? But for the most part, it's just your developing team, if you have a developer team, and then just the people running sales and operations, really.
Yeah, like if you take somebody like Rick, right, who runs, or not say Rick, but there's a bunch Dustin does. They run GHL. white labeled, and everything's right on the GHL side. They just build it up and they make it pretty, and they put their good stuff on it. And I love Rick, so we're clients of his, and I like his system, but he doesn't have to have the overhead. He has no data center servers. He doesn't have to run any of that stuff, and that's awesome. So he's like he's SaaSing SaaS. I don't know what we would call it, SaaS squared, I guess. It's all for marketing, and that's the whole idea of MRR, right? The monthly recurring revenue. Like those are the great companies that do it. What's the big one right now? School's the big one right now that's increasing the monthly revenue.
Yep. Yeah, it's all pretty interesting. That SaaS world I'm brand new to it. So my partner's from a fintech company, and so their whole thing is that, you know, she ran a pretty at C-suite level, a pretty big company, and so I'm just like, cool. You tell me what I have to learn in the next 3 months to get this rocking and rolling, and that's what I've been doing. I've kind of head has been down, and now I'm like throwing around terms like EBITDA and all this other stuff. I'm like, this is great. Like let's do this. So it's been pretty wild of a ride to learn all these different worlds of all these different businesses, and there's just so much out there. Like the statistic is only 1 in 12 sell, and the rest of them just get shut down. So it's kind of absurd if you can't grab one, and it's built in cash flow. Like, you know, we have real estate where everyone's buying, you know, properties that there's no one in it, or you got to rehab it, or you got to do this. You can go in to buy a business that's got $1 million of cash flow a year, and, you know, have a debt product that's only, you know, still allowing you to cash flow 30 million or 30,000 a year, a month. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
So I have a question about like your business structure. It sounds like you have a team, right?
Yeah.
So like, how do you have it structured, and like, what is each person like? What are their responsibilities in your team?
Yeah. So we actually hire out our operations team. So we have a company that we work with that does the day-to-day operations for these businesses. So once we get them under contract and once we get them purchased, they're the ones that are doing the high-level operations. So my partner is our operations, and I mean, in most of our world that we're in, it's the integrator, I guess, but it's really a operations integrator. So she does the high-end stuff where she makes all the pitch decks, she does all the planning and all that. And my job is to just bring the deals and the money. Right? And so that's really, like, we're pretty lean in terms of what we do. We just have our connections in the right places for our money, our deals, and then our operations team is running the actual, not day-to-day operations, but they're overseeing that business day-to-day operations. So they're doing the hiring of the next operator when the seller leaves, but no one is stepping into that role. We're still filling in that void.
So you're essentially doing operations as a service on the back, on your side. Like you're hiring a company, they're coming in, running it, they take a percentage or they take a fee or whatever, and then you're good to go. And so it's another bottom line number. And I'm assuming when you're doing projections, you're putting that into your P&L of what they're going to charge you to come in and run it.
Absolutely. And they're actually they're part of the process in getting the deal too, right? Like we're not just going to say like, hey, this is the deal we want, and they're going to be like, well, this doesn't make any sense for us, so we're not going to move forward with that, right? We want to make sure that it aligns with what they have.
So how many companies, since you started doing this, how many have y'all acquired?
So we're still in the process of getting some. We haven't acquired any companies right now. We only started like last month and actually hitting this hard. Okay. So mostly we've been in the multifamily space, and we have that large deal that you and I have talked about, back and forth with that one. That's been a fun battle royale, I guess you can call it. Delusional royale, I guess, on their side is more like it, but it's been fun.
I'm having the same problem on mine. Like I thought everything was good, and then, you know, some things happen, and then we start talking. The guy keeps talking about, I need to pay out my private money lender. I'm like, okay, we're going to figure this out. We get the title report back. There's 2 bank loans. I was like, wait a minute, you don't have a private money lender. Turns out he was the private money lender that paid down one of the bank loans. And I was like, wait, why didn't you tell us this? Like, we could have had a whole different conversation if I'd have known you were the PML. And so it's funny. Like, he's like, well, I really don't want to be in the deal long. I'm like, you realize you've had 3 people try to buy this. Nobody can get funding for it because of where it's located, and you're still paying the bill. So like, wouldn't you rather just put money in your pocket and not worry about the bill? So we're still going through that negotiation. So I won't say like state or whatever, but it's hard to get money in certain states.
Yes.
But That's good. I'm the same as you. I started looking at business probably 6 months ago. Actually, no longer than that. So I accidentally looked at a business when I had something happen in my life about 10 months ago. And I really wanted to buy that business. Just, I don't know why. It made like 80 grand a year, but it was a cool thing and it's local to me and I thought it was cool. But so then I started really researching like how to look at businesses, looking at, like you said, EBITDA is a big one, looking at cash flow, looking at location. Location is important based on the business. Not when you're talking SaaS, right? SaaS should be anywhere, but I was looking at brick and mortar in my town and how can I make it better? And I've realized real quick, you can't start off buying with your heart. You gotta have the cash to be able to then do, like you said, the pet project of, hey, that one doesn't make much money, but it'll help my community. Let me go get it. And so I've kind of pivoted to looking at, like you said, SaaS companies and then starting your own companies. I know everybody, that's the 4-letter word, right? Nobody starts their own company anymore, but there's certain companies I think that starting them, as long as they are synergistic to what you're already doing, might not be as much of a risk.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
What's an example of that? Because it's a 4-letter word in my mind.
Well, so like, we all focus on real estate investing, and then obviously we own TC companies. So when you look at things like title companies, notaries, things like that, those are all businesses that are on the HUD statement that could be ran by somebody, and then it ties in and you're passing work. I just started my own wholesale company with my brother. And so it's like all my TC work for my wholesale company will go to this company so that we keep it all in a circle. And, I won't even give myself a discount because it doesn't work that way. So,
right.
It's things like that. Like, for you, buying multifamily is great, but at a certain point, do you buy property management, right? To manage your multifamily yourself and just keep that money in house instead of sending it out of house. And then you're now offering those property management services to other places local, but you really started it to do it for yourself, right? So, it's interesting.
It is. It really is. There's so many bolt-ons that you can do to a business and bring other pieces that fit that model that you're using. So like you talked about the marketing, right? Marketing thing is part of everything we all do. Everything like this right here is marketing. What you guys are doing here is part of your marketing scheme. And if you don't have something that's helping with that, like it's another thing that you have to manually do in order to get that to happen. And if you can bring out a company that does it and say, cool, you're doing all of my stuff and I'm cash flowing from this business to that business. It just, like you said, it keeps it in that little loop. And then you can roll up the next business up into that, right? Buy a smaller business of the same thing or of the same content that, we're actually looking at a marketing firm that does localized B2B marketing as well as localized, what's it called? Direct to like just marketing on Instagram and Facebook, like kind of like Go High Level can do. But it's the SaaS company for that. And they basically can be inputted anywhere. And then we can white label that just like Go High Level to other businesses, right? So it's a really interesting thing to see. And it's like, great, that's perfect for that. Now I can go ahead and buy a creative version of a marketing firm that's only doing creative and they're creating content. This one's doing the actual physical, like put it out there. And then you can buy another one that has, some other higher level stuff. So it's a really cool way you can just bring everything together. It's just amazing, especially when you're buying cash flowing businesses that you're now not starting from scratch. Like you're saying, starting them up because it's an easy thing. But if there was something in your market that you can just grab onto that's close by, that's easy to snag a title company, you'd probably jump on that before you built one out and have to deal with the oversight, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I look at it too. Like certain niches, like title company, I'm not going to start one. I don't have any desire to go get licensed, but what can I do to get in with the title company and take a piece? Like, can I buy into a piece and use them exclusively? Those are things that I've looked at. And then, like you were saying about the market, that's great. What you're really doing when you think about it is, you buy the SaaS part of the marketing, then you go buy a company that does the creative side. At that point, Shane Evans Enterprises is just building divisions. You're not even having companies. They're different companies, but at the end of the day, you're building the ship and you're building up. And I love that because I've looked at things like accounting firms. I've talked to 3 or 4 accounting firms. None of them stuck because I'm not an accountant. I don't want to be an accountant. Never want to be one. Don't like to do numbers from that perspective. I like money, but I don't like to do numbers like that. but I'd love to own one because then I can fund all my accounting to it and I can help them grow that business, because that's the whole point of what I've learned and I'm decently good at is growing businesses that I have no idea what I'm doing other than I can put processes in place, I can put technology in place, or I can find the right people to put the right technology in place and be successful. And that's my goal is like, you know, like you said, I don't want to run a SaaS company, but I'd like to own one. I'd like to look at their numbers and look at what they're doing and be like, hey, why don't you do these 3 things that would make my life easier because I'd tie it to another business and then we'll make money off of it and we'll grow. Because I think that we all business owners, when it's their business, gets stuck in their head like, I need to do it my way. I got to do it this way. And, you know, we can walk in and be like, you're not making any money. What if we just buy you and then you can stay on and we'll show you. And then when you leave, you can go do another one. I don't care. Because we'll be big enough. And so, yeah, that's great, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing about like a property management company. Cause I'm like, I know we're going to need a property management company at some point because we're going to move to Puerto Rico. And I was like, wait a minute. Why don't I buy a property management company, have them manage our companies, and I'm not the one doing it? Like, just having those businesses like benefit what you're already doing is such an amazing idea.
Yeah.
Like, and not running it is even better.
Is even better. Exactly. Well, and I wanted to ask both of you, like you two are partnered up together, and you know, Jennifer, I knew you prior to knowing Jay, and I think you partnered after within the last year and a half, right? You've partnered up.
Last year.
Okay. How did that come about, right? Because that's something that's really important too, right? I found my partner in a very specific way by showing what I have, putting all my cards on the table and saying, this is what I need. And I had 100 people come to me and say, I can do all that stuff, but I don't really know how to underwrite. And I was like, all right, well, that's not what I need. I don't need you on my team, right? Like, so how did you two meet up and how did you align in what you're doing?
Yeah. So that's a great question. People ask us that question a lot, actually. And, you know, it was kind of like what you said, like I had certain things and Jay had certain things, and he actually reached out to me and was like, hey, you know, just, you know, looking to make a connection and getting to know me. And he's like, you know, I TC Gator. He's like, I would like to learn sub 2. I'm like, shoot, I know creative. I want to learn Gator. And so that's how we came together. And then I had him TCing a Gator deal that we were working on. And like, once we started working together, it was like, we could continue working together. This is amazing because we kept bringing value to each other, like time and time again. And we saw that if we united, we would do bigger things than if we just went solo.
Yeah.
Right. Because it was just like this missing puzzle piece that came together to make, like, complete this whole picture. And ever since then, like, we've brought on 2 other partners, and each of them have brought on other qualities that just complement what we already had established. Right. And I knew that I could, if I had this vision of having like a big company, but I can't do that by myself. There's no way. Right. And like, technology is not my forte at all. And like, I'm so thankful that I have Jay on my team for that, because I'm like, he laughs at me. I'm like, Jay, technology just does not work well with me. And he brings that, you know, it's just amazing. It's just really amazing with the people that we have on our team and what we've been able to accomplish, and like the visions that we have. It's just really a collaborative effort.
Love that.
You know, it's interesting too is we've grown and we've done all that, but we actually didn't even define our roles until probably 3 or 4 months ago. Like, we didn't have roles. We just did everything together, or we both did the same thing and they overlapped, and then one of us would get angry with the other one. Mainly and so, you know, one of the things as we were learning, as we were growing, was like, all right, how do we go next level? And so we start, like you said, start doing self-help. We started learning, like I started reading Rocket Fuel, and then I went into another book that was talking about how you have to set boundaries. The lines can be gray because we still gray them, but you do have to set that, like, this is your job. This is what you need to make sure is done. And then this is what you need to make sure is done. And it doesn't mean we don't cross each other. So there's certain things I'm not going to do that I don't want to do, that I'm glad she takes it, because it won't get done. But there's certain things that she has to do that I still get in, and vice versa. Like she said, she's not going to hop into technology, but she will go in and make some Google Workspace accounts and they don't work correctly. And then I'm like, I'll fix it. So, so there are gray areas, right? But no, like she gets mad if I lock her out too. I've done that before. And so, but you know, I think that's what you, like you were talking about, that's what you have to do. You have to find that person you can work with and you can stand to be around. And that's how we hire, like too. Like I work Fortune 500. I do all that, and I know there's certain rules on hiring and all that, but we don't look at a metric sheet and measure people. We talk to you. I don't care if you know what you're doing. I can teach you, but can I hang out with you? Can I be on a Zoom after hours with you? Can I crack a joke in a Zoom room and everybody laugh and I don't worry about anybody being offended, right? It's those types of intangibles that I look for when we're hiring somebody. Is what I want to go to the, not bar because I don't drink, would I want to go to Chuck E. Cheese with you and your kids and my kids and hang out? You know, it's one of those things, and we've got that now. Like, we've got a great culture. I think we keep building it. We keep learning, you know, the way we're supposed to do stuff. Because like Jennifer said, when we started, like we were just doing it. We had no idea what we were doing. I've ran companies, she's ran a company, but when you run your own, it's different. Because you just want to try to succeed and you don't try to put the pieces in place. Then you got to go back. A lot harder. Anybody listen? A lot harder if you do it without putting pieces in place. Put the pieces in place first. And if you don't know how, call up, because we definitely know how to put pieces in place now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jennifer.
And I love that Jay pointed that part out, that it, like, we have the qualities and we can work well together, but like we can be around each other and, you know, make light of a moment and it's a-okay, right? We're good with that. And like people sometimes, like when we're together, they're like, you guys are like brother and sister. You guys, like, he'll pick on me, I'll pick on him, like we play bicker, and like we still can get things done. But it's such a great relationship because, you know, in any business, there are times where like things get like a little stressful, right? And like you need to just be able to be yourself and understand one another and just be like, all right, we're going to figure it out, you know? And I love that about our team, that it doesn't feel like, all right, well, we're just business partners. Like we're building like a family, because like we've met each other's families, each other's spouses, like they've met my kids, and it's like, it's amazing.
And where do you live compared to each other? That's a big thing too. That's always fun.
Oh yeah, very far. Like I live in Connecticut, he lives in Memphis, but like anytime we meet up, like at an event, like we were in Puerto Rico a few months ago, and then we were at the what was that? The camp thing.
We squad up. We were at community camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another thing we try to implement, is like a yearly meetup of our company, right? And so we have two other partners, right, that just come on, January Batten and Jason Bates, and so we all four went to Puerto Rico. So our entire leadership team was in Puerto Rico, and it was fun. Like we hosted, you know, we were the sponsors of the event that Jerry and Creative, I'm gonna mess this up, Creative Investors Network, put on. I always say it the wrong way. They put it on. We just sponsored it. And it's funny because Jennifer was supposed to work with a lawyer from Puerto Rico, was supposed to do the opening questions and all that. And we all get there, we're all talking to, she comes up and goes, hey, I need y'all to go up there with me because the lawyer canceled this morning. It's like, sure, like we're ready. And we didn't miss a beat. Like we all four passed the mic and we were great. But it was kind of funny that some people can't do that. They just couldn't function and be like, okay. And that's how we are. So
yeah, that's awesome. It's cool to see, you know, there's two things that you pointed out before, was making sure that you're having more than just business conversations, right? Because you're a family, you are a family. Like there's no way around that, right? And if you can create that energy and that environment where everyone loves to be there, and then the people who are working for you want to be there, like they want to put the extra time in. They want to, not that you're going to take advantage, but like you want people who want to be around you. And the only way to have that is to have them love you, right? And build that culture. And I've been a teacher for years, and day one, I would make sure that I did, like, if you've ever seen the Aaron skit on Saturday Night Live where the guy is in the front of the classroom mispronouncing the names on purpose, I would do that on the first day of school with every single student, but guaranteed I knew their names by the end of that day, and I knew it for the rest of the year. And every kid thought there was something wrong with me. But the next day I'd be like, all right, so why did I do that? It's because I wanted you all to feel comfortable. I wanted you all to feel like this is a place where you can enjoy being. And that is the environment I wanted to create and cultivate. And by doing that and then pushing that agenda, you know, you're only going to get out of people what they want to give, right? And you're never going to get more than that. So I loved hearing that. And especially just your partners, right? You have to have those aligned values and be able to have that environment where you're enjoying what you're doing. Because why do it if you're not? Especially in running a business, man. If you're not working with someone you like, and I've been through three partners, and we tried it, and I liked them all, but it just wasn't the right fit, and that's okay, right? It's going in, trying it out, and moving on. And the other thing you mentioned was about when you're working on your business and you are working in that business and trying to find the fit with each other, with that other person, and bringing in the other people who add resources and add value to it. You know, going back to that mindset thing, there's one thing that happened to me about a month ago. As I was learning all this business and this multifamily, like we were diving into underwriting and all this other stuff. And I'm like, this is not my world, right? I hate this kind of stuff, but I needed to learn it. So as we were diving into that, we were going full throttle. And there was a point where I was not doing my social media. I was not doing as much as I should. Like I was having my weekly meetings on the Network to Net Worth, but I wasn't really diving into everything. And I just realized, I'm like, man, this is not giving me joy. This does not fill my bucket, like you said before. And I said to my partner, I was like, listen, I gotta get back to doing the things that I'm good at. And she was like, she sent me a text back, and it wasn't until this moment that I realized that I ever was able to receive this. I'm sure my whole life people have been saying that, my wife, my parents, things like that. But it was, you sit in your superpower, and I'll stand back and support. And to me, that was like, and it wasn't until a month ago when I did enough self-help and enough things to allow my brain and my emotions to accept that I realized, wow, I do have something to bring. I do have this giant value add to someone else and to a business. Someone coming from the tech world who left their job to work with me full time, that's a big button to push, right? Like that's made me feel like, wow, I'm doing it right. And so it's been a wild ride going through this whole business side of things. And anyone here who's watching this, if you're in real estate, I hate to break it to you, you're building a business, right? It's not just this one or twosie buying a house. Like you have to bring on an operations manager as your first step. Otherwise, you're just running around in circles doing every little piece. But if you have someone doing all the pieces and your goal is just deals and money to bring to that person to be the hub, there's really no reason not to. And I know corporate on most people's brains are like, oh, I don't want to do that. But there's reasons why these businesses do so well.
Right.
I think a lot of us, when we, like you said, when we get into it, it's like, I don't want to work a 9 to 5 anymore. And then you hear entrepreneurs go, man, I work like 14 hours a day. And it's the exact mindset you're talking about. Is because when you start talking about how to make it a business, they attach that to 9 to 5, not if I have Shane doing this and Jay's doing this and Jennifer's doing this, then I only have to do a fourth, which means I need 4 hours of my business a week. I'm in this new group, and I've been putting them on social media from the group I'm in. And that's what they talk about. Like they work an hour a week in their business. They make $300,000 a month, and they work an hour to 2 hours total in their business a month or a week. I'm sorry, a week. Like how awesome is that? That doesn't mean they're not working. It does not mean they're not building other things because they have another thing coming out, but they're not in the day-to-day minutia that we all are right now because they've learned. And if you listen to her story, because it's on YouTube, it's Tiffany High. If you listen to her story, like she failed twice, probably more, but she talks about 2 big times she failed and then went up. And like her and her husband are amazing people to hear tell their story. And so I agree with you. I think that like you were saying, like you get in that corporate mindset, but you got to remember it's your corporate. It's your corporate. So you get to control it. Like if you think Jeff Bezos is logging into Amazon's warehouse every day, you're crazy. Like he ain't doing it. Like he just sold a bunch of his stock, right? Because he doesn't care, because he doesn't have to care, because he did what he was supposed to do. And he did it, like you said, by delegation and by bringing in the right people. And that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Shane, man, it's been great having you on. I know you got to go. That's what you were telling me. So question, like, how do people contact you? I know you want deals. I know you want business. And then I know you want to make connections. I know we say we try to be good, not make a lot, but we got to make connections how we are.
Yeah.
How can we get a hold of you? What's the best?
Sure. So my handle on all my social media is at Shane Eddie Evans, and you can find me on Facebook, social media, or Instagram, all the pieces. Facebook is the easiest one. So if you send me a message, please make sure you send it to me. And if I don't follow up, because there's that magical place that all the messages disappear on Messenger, please follow up with me. I'll make sure I get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, reach out. I'm always looking for people who want to put their money to work and people who have potential deals, specifically businesses right now or large multifamilies. I'd look at anything creative that's smaller or just anything. I'd love to help you all partner on stuff and do deals.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to send you some. Well, dude, Shane, we appreciate it, man.
You too.
Thanks for being on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shane. It was nice talking to you again.
You too. Thank you.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Whenever you're ready to start, because I'm going to cut it anyway.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode here at Finish Line. We have such an amazing guest, and I am super, super excited. I'm going to let Jay take this one. Jay, go ahead and introduce our amazing guest.
Thank you. Thank you. So our guest is a guy who's known in the community. He's known for networking mindset. He's known for working with businesses, and he runs the group Network to Net Worth. And so I'm going to introduce my guy, Shane Evans.
Amazing. Guys, Shane Evans is definitely someone you guys want to know and want to connect with. He has his follow-up game down packed, and he's doing very, very big things. So definitely make sure that you guys connect with him after watching this video and let him know that you guys saw him here too. It's always nice when our guests are getting messages saying, hey, I saw you guys on the podcast, and thank them too for, taking their time out of their day to spend time with us and bring you guys value.
Absolutely. All right, let's bring Shane on.